So AR and VR proponents like to say that their market sizes will be massive, and we believe they're right to a degree, but it's really a matter of timing. So ARtillry Intelligence ventured to quantify these sectors in more precise terms, and the result is our latest industry revenue forecast. And the high-level summary is that total global XR revenues will grow from $4.2 billion in 2017 to $61 billion in 2022, and that includes AR and VR and the enterprise and consumer segments of each. So where's that money going? The largest of all these subsegments is enterprise AR, which will comprise roughly 48% of all XR revenues in 2022. And that has a lot to do with the scale that's achieved through wide applicability across enterprise verticals and a form factor that supports all-day use and clear-cut ROI for enterprise buyers when you consider things like speed and error reduction and overall efficiencies that can be gained in areas like manufacturing and assembly. But even despite those advantages, there's still enterprise resistance and risk aversion, and we're currently seeing that chipped away, and we believe momentum will build up to a tipping point somewhere around late 2019 or 2020, after which we'll see accelerated adoption. So it'll build slow and then happen fast, and that's exactly what we saw with enterprise smartphone adoption over the past decade. So sticking with AR, its consumer segment is the second largest subsector in the outer years of our forecast, with 2022 projected annual revenues of about $18.8 billion. And that will largely be driven by mobile AR in the near term, given its scale and large installed base of compatible smartphones for AR Core and AR Kit. So that means the revenue source for consumer AR won't be hardware and smart glasses, but rather software from mobile AR apps and games. And that will really evolve from the business model already validated by Pokemon Go, which includes most notably in-app purchases. But what everyone's really waiting for is an AR killer app, which we could see emerge sometime late next year when AR developers truly gain their native footing. And we believe that will be social or perhaps gaming oriented and rely on some of the developments of the AR cloud, such as multiplayer support or image persistence. And as a historical comparison, it took 2 to 3 years after the first iPhone before we saw smartphone killer apps such as Waze and Uber and Foursquare in the kind of 2009 and 2010 timeframe. So we could see that same elapsed timeframe from last year's AR Kit launch, not to mention the same lesson in native thinking and UX that brought us some of those killer apps a decade ago. As for VR, it's actually the opposite of AR in that consumer markets will lead its revenue growth versus the enterprise. And that has a lot to do with the fact that VR's form factor is aligned more with gaming and entertainment. And it will find a home in some enterprise functions like training and data visualization, but its revenue potential overall in the enterprise will be a bit limited because VR's isolation inhibits industrial job functions and the share of time per working day. Now, consumer VR, on the other hand, will start to accelerate this year due to Oculus Go, which carries the advantage of price and a solid spec sheet and a rich content library inherited from Gear VR. And with a giftable price tag of $200, we believe that the holidays 2018 will really be a moment of truth for whether or not it can be that accelerant. And a lot of this really stems from the fact that Oculus, with the advantage of Facebook backing, has the flexibility to apply loss leader pricing in order to trade margins from market share towards its long game platform strategy. And that'll really give it a strong competitive position versus other players like HTC and Samsung that are more dependent on nearer term hardware margins. So that really just scratches the surface, but you can preview the report and find out more on the URL listed on this screen, and stay tuned for lots more analysis and narratives as we continue to unpack this massive data set, and we're going to update it twice a year in what will certainly be a moving target and an exciting time for immersive computing.